we can create a new hash set. A hash set would be a hash table based. So that means, well, what's the primary advantage of a hash table?
That's easy.
Quick lookup, right? So order one lookup. So that's what I would get in my hash set. And then I can just add. Then I have my for each loop that will just print out everything, or I can iterate over all of those elements in my set. So how does this look different if my set was an array list?
It shouldn't look any different.
It's not. It's exactly the same. I would just add, and then I can still for each over. So this way I could try an array list, and I can see what that's like. And then I can switch to a linked list. I can see what that's like. I can switch to a set. I can see what that's like. So I can change all of my data structures up here, and I don't have to change the code down here, which is again what I just said about the responses. We want to make it so you can change the code in one spot and everything else works. As much as you can. You can't always do that, but in this case you can. And for those, I think all of you did the lab, right? On Monday, where this is exactly what we did. Oh yeah, we did it, yeah. This is what we did, though, is we had an array list and a linked list. And you just swapped out which one you were using. For those of you who did that, were you surprised when you looked at the chart? Did the major difference in performance actually surprise you at all? I mean, I knew it, but it was just surprising to see it, actually, for me. When I saw it plotted out, it was like, wow, that really is worse.
We caught it too.
Hmm?
We had discussions on efficiency of the sort of algorithms there.
Yeah. Okay, tokenizing strings. So tokenizing here means breaking a string into separate words or tokens. So our tech support number 2 is still not great, right? We're pretty much ignoring anything the user says. Again, we're somewhat realistic, but it's not helpful. We want to be better than realistic. So better than realistic. That reminds me of something funny that I saw. I've actually seen it twice now. So HD is the craze, right? Everything has to be HD. So a couple of years ago, it was really, everyone was advertising it. I went into a 7-Eleven and they were advertising HD sunglasses. I couldn't figure out what that meant.
They're probably the yellow tinted ones that are supposed to make things brighter.
They
or something.
weren't. They were just,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I don't know, but I was like, HD, how do you get, I don't know what that was. But then last week I saw an advertisement for HD laundry soap. High def. It was high def laundry soap. And the commercial was like this fuzzy picture, and then there was a clear box in the middle. And it was like, if you use our laundry soap, you get high def clean. Anyway, so that was a digression, but that was my better than real life. Okay, so what I'm going to do is in my get input, this is in my reader, instead of just returning a string, I'm going to return a set of strings, and the set is going to be all the words. So the way this will work is I print the prompt, I input, I read the line from my scanner, next line, and then I trim it, I remove the spaces at the front and the back, and then to lowercase it, that means I convert it all to lowercase, I remove all the uppercase stuff out of it. Then, input line then is a string, right? It's a string with no spaces at the front and the beginning, and it's all lowercase. Then I'm gonna call on input line, the string, I'm gonna call split, and then here's a space character. What split does is it will take a string and it will split it into separate strings based off of the split character. And it returns an array of strings. And then finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that array of strings and I'm going to make a new hash set with that array of strings. And that will be called words. Actually, I could have passed that in there. I didn't. I'm going to for each over the word array and add all the words. So in the end, I'm going to have something called words, which is a hash set of all the words that I typed in, whatever the user typed in. And that's what get input will pass back. Okay? Now, before we see what we do with that, we're going to talk about maps. Maps are collections that have pairs of values, key and value. So a key and a value, take a key and maps it to a value. Fairly straightforward. You look up words, not works, by supplying a key and retrieving a value. A telephone book is an example. You look up a person's name, you get information, namely their phone number. So we're going to use the maps with keys and values. So this would be a phone book, which has a string to a string, name to phone number with dashes and stuff in it, so it's not really an integer. So hash map, new hash map, string, string, phone book, put, Charles New, I'm never gonna say that last name.
You can just say win.
Win.
It really works.
Win, win. Anyway, Charles Gwynn, and then the phone number, Lisa Jones, and William Smith. And then the phone number to look it up, I can just say phone number, get Lisa Jones, and I can print out the phone number. So pretty straightforward. How do we compare these then? We have lists, array list, and linked list, which are linear ordering. There is an ordering of things, a sequence at least, not necessarily an alphabetical or numerical order, but a sequence. Hash set, tree set, these are sets. There's no sequence to these. And then hash map, and is unrelated to hash set though. Hash map has a key value, hash set is just a single thing. So even though they sound similar, hash map, hash set, they're not the same. All right, before we look at the back, right? Oh, I know we did. Oh, okay, I'm going to not do that. Let's go back to our tech support person. We're going to go tech support complete. That sounds better, right? All right. Welcome to DodgySoft Technical Support. We'll assist you with your problem, any problem you might have. All right. What's our problem?
Computer's on fire.
No, I'm going to crash. My computer is crashing. It died. I'm running Windows. This is no bug to do with the Windows operating system. Please report to Microsoft. Okay. Should I restart? Alright, can you help? It doesn't work. What about Linux? Oh, what about Mac? Okay, so that's the no bug with the Mac operating system. Alright, so it's not really being much more helpful, but it does seem to respond a little bit to my words. So how is that? So let's say, alright, so here is my responder now. Instead of an array list of random responses, I'm going to have a hash map that's string to string called response map. I have an array list of default responses and then my random generator. In my constructor, I create my hash map, I create my array list, I fill the response map, and then I fill the default responses. So what's the response map look like? The response map says, I'm going to put in things here. The first is the key, crash, and then what to say. Crashes, what to say. Slow, what to say. Performance, and so on. So you see what all the different mappings, and then my defaults that I'm just going to pick randomly from. So how does this work when I respond then? I get passed a set of words now instead of nothing. And this is the words that were in the thing that the person typed. for each word in the list, I get a response from the response map. If the response is not null, then I return it, which of course this is awful, because there's multiple returns. But we'll just leave it at that. If the response is not null, I return it. Otherwise, I go to the next word. So the first word that matches generates a response that it gets out of this map. So that's why when I typed Windows, it said this is a known bug to do with Windows operating system. Same thing with Mac. Okay? So then if I look at the support system Java file, it says almost the same. The only difference is I get my input, it's a hash set. And then I pass that input into generate response. Okay? So now kind of close the loop on what I started with. This is almost what Eliza was. There was a little bit of difference, which was Eliza did the responses, had placeholders in it, so you could take a word and you could replace that word back in. So if you said, for example, my mom makes me angry, you know, something you might tell your therapist, then it could come back and say, why does your mom make you angry? Because it would substitute the word mom. But this is almost what Eliza was. And this is the thing that made Weizenbaum so concerned, is if I can just so easily write something like this that confused people and made them think it was a real intelligence, there's a real chance that I can, you know, I can confuse people and take advantage of it. Okay. Class documentation. Your classes, this is only half true. Your classes should be documented the same way library classes are. I say that's only half true because library classes are documented the way they are because they're meant to be used as general things that other people would use. So your programs are probably not that way. Like mission count. Mission count is an application trying to solve a particular problem. The likelihood of someone using mission count inside of a different program is very low, because they would have to be solving the same problem you're solving, plus maybe some others, but it's not quite the same. So other people should be able to use your class without reading the implementation. That's true. So how do we do that? Java provides something called JavaDoc. And JavaDoc allows you to add comments in your code using this special start comment indicator, /**, as opposed to just /*. Then the comments that are written in here get converted into HTML documentation. It looks very similar to the pages we just were looking at online, where we have like the string implementation or the string APIs and stuff. It is possible to write these comments on your classes, on your methods, on your variables, your public variables. And when you run the JavaDoc tool, which I'm not going to really show you how to do, because in the command line, I'm not sure how straightforward it is. Eclipse does it reasonably well. So when you run the JavaDoc tool, it generates a bunch of HTML files, and in that kind of nice format with the frames or whatever. In the real world, do people use JavaDoc? Yes, they do. So my day job, we are shifting from C# to Java for a new project, and because the new project is Eclipse based, we're making an extension to Eclipse, so we have to do it in Java. We're using JavaDoc for everything. So by Java, for everything, I mean all of our design documents. So we're not writing separate design documents in Word or something else. We're actually, all the developers are writing their design into the code as JavaDocs. And then we have as a part of our nightly build, we rebuild that design documentation every time.
Does there, do IDEs have issues with that? Because I was trying with IntelliJ parameters. It freaks out when I try to give a parameter.
It shouldn't, because JavaDoc is actually not.
It works in BlueJ, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I am surprised that IntelliJ would have problems with it.
That's
because
bugging me because I want, you know, I have a parameter.
Eclipse does not, but some people like IntelliJ better. But yeah, it's it should not have a problem. I'm surprised.
I tried NetBeans, see if that one does it. The latest version of IntelliJ is really slow loading, so I may go back to NetBeans.
So this is a class comment. Here's a method comment. Yeah.
So is Java dot is a command or something?
Yeah, there is a Java dot command. It's probably in our path here. Yeah, it's in the user JDK bin directory.
So how should we use this?
I don't know how to use it on the command line. It might be as simple as just Java doc start out Java. I don't know. I've never used it on the command line.
And things if it actually has some documentation.
No, none of those do. But so. Okay, so Java doc start out Java, and then it generated some stuff. It generated HTML files for everything, and it generated probably an index of HTML. Unfortunately, this is a command line tool. I can't actually open the file.
What was it? Links, I think might be.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, that's how you can use it. Okay. Public versus private. Public elements are accessible to all objects, private or not. Fields should not be public. Private elements are accessible only to objects of the same class. You want your data to be private, then you use getters and setters, accessors and mutators to access the data. This is stuff you guys already covered before previous classes in this, so I'll skip that. Code completion. If you were using BlueJ, it supports code completion. You can start typing a method, you press tab, it completes it. But I don't know why you'd be using BlueJ. For this class, we're focusing on command line, which does not have code completion. At least I read somewhere, someone made a statement, some stranger online made a statement that VI or Vim and Emacs both support command completion for Java. And I've never seen that before. And that random stranger online who stated it never said how. So I don't know if it's true or not. How many of you guys are VI users? And have any of you actually figured that out, how to make, okay. And so I use Emacs, I've never seen Emacs. Maybe there's a way to do it. But if you actually were gonna use an IDE, it wouldn't be BlueJ, it'd be Eclipse, and Eclipse has code completion as well, or IntelliJ, or NetBeans, or Android Studio, or some other IDE. BlueJ would not make the top of my list. All right, review. One more thing, or a couple topics that are related. Class variables. So far what we've seen are variables that are members of a class. So something like private and age, or something like that. It is possible to have variables that are called class variables, not instance variables. Class variables are variables that exist for a class, and you don't need an object to use that variable. They're defined with the keyword static. So, here it is. So suppose that I had this is a poor example. I'll talk about math. There's a Java class called math. I don't know where it is. It might be Java util math. I don't know where it is actually. There's some constants defined, things that never change, like pi. Pi doesn't change, and so there is a variable math.pi that you can just access. You don't need to create a math object just to get the value of pi. So if you want to calculate, is it area? Is it pi r squared? Yeah. I could just say float area equals math.pi times r times r. So this is where I'm using a a static variable that's a part of the math class. Notice what I did not do is say math, my math equals new math object, and then my math dot pi. That's what I would do if I had to use it through an object. But I don't, because this is defined on the class itself. Their example here is thermometer at boiling point. I guess if your thermometer only works with one type of liquid, then that would be fine. Because in the real world, different liquids have different boiling points. And different elevations with different liquids have different boiling points, so that's not a great option. Okay, constants. Constants are another concept that we can have where we can make a variable, a class or an instance variable, that has a value is set one time and never set again. And the way we do this is with the unintuitive keyword final. I don't know what was wrong with const. Maybe the person who had their thing happen on was sick that day and they defined this, but for some reason they decided that final was the best way to define this as const.
What's wrong with final?
Final does not tell the normal person that this is not changing. You can interpret it as final means that's the final value. But it turns out we also use final on methods and it means and classes and it means something different to them.
That does seem a little weird.
So it would have been more sense to just say const or constant, right? Everything else they use private. They didn't use don't touch this. So anyway, final int max, this would be in the declaration, and then you set it to a value, and then it never changes. Final fields have to be set in the declaration or in the constructor, but once they're set, they can't be reset. And combining static and final is common, so right here, public, static, final, int, boiling point, whatever. So this means I have a variable called boiling point. It's an integer. It has a value of 100. That's final, as in it won't ever get changed. It is 100 always. It's static, so whatever class this is defined in, I can access this just through that class. I don't need an object. And then it's public, which means everyone can access it. But they can only access it to read it, because it's final. It can't be written. So this is the one exception to making your data members public. If your data members are final, then you can make them public, because nobody can change them anyway. So there's not, you're not losing a lot.
Kind of like a global constant.
Yeah. All right. So that is the end of chapter 5. Yes.
So the main function that we have to create in order for Java to run, is that then a class
Oh yeah,
function?
good point. I was just about to say that and I forgot. So thank you for reminding me. Back here. So now you get to, it's the third week, so now you get to learn some of the magic. Public, static, void, main, string, squares, arg. So now you actually understand most of this. Public, because it's a public method. Static, we haven't really talked about static methods, but they are very similar to static data, is that you can run them on a class, you don't need an object. Void means it doesn't return anything. Main is the name. And now you've seen this, the string array. So strings, which we know about, and the square brackets mean it's an array. I don't have the size, I don't need the size here because I can get the size from what?
The array.
The array itself. I can say args.length, that's the number of elements.
And so does that use the same construct that we saw with the squiggly brackets just behind the scenes
For what?
for the args array?
I don't know. So there's something about a Java runtime and a Java startup code that it goes from you typing Java space my class, you press return, then that invokes the Java virtual machine, and the Java virtual machine says, oh, that's a class we want to run, it's got to do some setup, and creating memory and all this stuff. And then at some point it reads the argument, it creates an array of those, and eventually it calls the main method on your class. Okay? So, that's where this comes from. Any other questions? Yes?
Can you say a little about how to iterate through a map? I saw some method like map.entry and brackets or entry set, these kind of things.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, so how do we iterate through a map? Well, remember map is keys and values, right?